Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If I like it's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. Cause lately I've been seeing stars, trying to kick out of this chokehold. But it's no holds barred, middle fingers like I'm Stone Cold.
What is good, ladies and gentlemen of the CWC and any other wrestling fan tuning into this episode of the Slapping Me Wrestling Podcast? Sort of bonus episode for the week, sort of a way I wanted to, how I wanted to try this out for Premier Live events. Of course, Payback is over, so I wanted to, as it's fresh, instead of waiting till Wednesday's episode to cover this, while it's on my mind, let's go ahead and get an episode in. And that way, Wednesday's episode can be, building off of Raw following, or more wrestling news or other stuff like that, right? So this is solely just going to be the Payback review show, which I'm aptly titling Judgment Day Reigns Supreme. I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you've watched Payback that just ended right before I started recording this, and therefore there is really no need for a spoiler alert because you already know what happens. So we're going to go through this match by match, and we're sort of grade this and talk about some of it again. We're not going to go sort of spot for spot, but so we start the show with the steel cage match, Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus. If I'm being honest, going into this match, I didn't have very high expectations for this. In fact, I had very low expectations for this match. I think it was very clear that Becky was going to win, and we were going to transition into some other feud out of this story. I want to speak on that, though, because a lot of people, when they see that's why WWE sucks, it's predictable. No. The predictability is fine. The predictability of the show is fine, right? Most TV shows are predictable in where they're going in their plot. You don't have to be complex to tell a good story. I thought, though, we get into this match, and we know Becky can go in steel cages. Trish, I was worried about. But this match was an absolute banger. This match turned the shitty feeling that Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus felt at SummerSlam being removed from the card. And they took that energy and created quite possibly one of the best matches of the year. I don't think it's match of the year. I think we got to slow down on that. But it was one of the most, I guess, overachieving matches of the year in terms of where I had expectations to what we got. They, to sort of use the cliche that they've been telling in the story, they turned lemons into lemonade. This is, ladies and gentlemen, professionality. This is what makes you professional wrestler. Because Becky took some shots and she made some jokes. And, she expressed her feelings with the whole lemon situation, and she turned it into a story. She turned it into the storyline, right? But she could have sat there and bitched and moaned about not being pushed. But no, they went out there and they used that energy they felt, and they put on a fantastic steel cage match. They put on a fantastic opener to this show. And while I don't think it's match of the year, I think you have to put it in consideration. And so I have a list of matches that I started at the very beginning of this year. For potential match of the year. This match is on that list now. I don't think it's going to win. There's a lot of very strong competition on this list. But Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus in the steel cage match at Payback is on the match of the year potentiality list, which at the end of this year, the last episode of the year, I'll give my awards and we'll go through it, right? So what made this match good wasn't necessarily that it was like an athletic spectacle. I think what we can talk about is I really don't know how to explain what we saw in this match, right? We just saw two people leave everything they had in the ring, all their frustration, the story leading up to it. It was a very good way to cap it off. It was physical. It I think told a story in the ring. And, you know, they did some crazy shit. Like, there were several times in this match where I thought Trish is too old to be doing this. This is crazy. And fantastic match. Things that I didn't think they would do, they ended up doing. Of course, we get Zoe Stark getting involved. And it appears that that's where they're going with the story with Zoe Stark versus Trish Stratus. Possibly for the next few months. As it seems like Becky is moving off to NXT to go maybe fight Tiffany Stratton. That would be very interesting. But yeah, Becky Lynch with the win. Fantastic match. Way to kick off this show. Way to kick it off. And we're giving this match, we're going to give it we'll give it an A. We'll give it an A match. It was an A plus, but we'll give it an A. All right, so then we move on to match number 2, which is Miz versus LA Knight, and Cena is now the special guest referee. He announces himself as special guest referee. I think that this match did enough to fulfill what we were looking for. I don't think Cena was needed in the referee capacity, but the whole idea was to strap the Rocket onto LA Knight. This is definitely going to be the push for LA Knight. He's definitely going to be pushed. Now, whether or not it's going to be a successful push, I'm still on the fence about. I don't think LA Knight showed me personally enough to tell me that he's the next superstar in the making. But WWE tends to do this thing. You know, Roman Reigns 2016, he wins the Royal Rumble. They send The Rock out there because that's basically the Rocket being strapped to his back, right? So they do this with LA Knight. They send Cena out there to basically give him the push. Hey, you're going to be the next guy. Here's the John Cena rub, and we'll do that, right? There's a tease of LA Knight versus Cena at the end of it. Again, I personally did not think that this match was necessarily the best thing ever. And so I'm giving it a B minus. It wasn't bad. It was better than average, but it wasn't exciting. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a B minus. Nothing wrong with it. I don't think Cena was necessarily needed in the referee capacity, but it made it fun. A good little promo section there between Cena and Miz. That was pretty fun. We then moved to the United States Championship match. Theory and Rey Mysterio. I sort of assumed this was going to be the piss break match, so I went and I used it as my piss break. I went and did anything but watch this match. I sort of kept it on in the background, and it was okay. It was okay, but it is what you thought it was. This was the match that everyone sort of expected would be the worst on the card, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. I don't have a lot to say about it. Rey Mysterio retained his title. We'll give it the C plus average match. That it probably will be ranked when we look back at this match in this pay-per-view. We're not going to think of this match, right? I don't know what they're doing with this title. I was hoping for a turn by Santos. Maybe we'll see that on Friday, but there wasn't really any tension after the match, so I don't know where we're going with it. Next we have the street fight. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn versus Judgment Day, Balor and Priest. This match is an A plus. This had everything you wanted. You had a little bit of blood. It was physical. It was extreme. The only other thing I wish they would do is actually make it a street fight. But within the realms of what we typically get for a street fight, this was really, really, really well done. Again, this is another match, another Premier Live event that has multiple matches on my potential match of the year card as this goes on here. Now, it's been since Backlash, since I've put a main roster match on this list. I felt Crown Jewel, SummerSlam, and Money in the Bank were a little bit unfulfilling in terms of match of the year. We have a couple NXT matches on there, but in terms of main roster matches, I haven't put one on here since Backlash, which just so happens to be the last street fight with Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. And so there's something about Priest in these street fights that are fun and entertaining. And I thought this match was very well done. I'm a little confused because it seemed like Finn and Priest worked together, but there was tension when we last saw them, but they worked together pretty well in this match. Dominic comes up clutch as sort of like the MVP, help him win the titles, and now Judgment Day reigns supreme at the top of WWE, where all of them have titles, and Damian Priest is also Mr. Money in the Bank. Now, there's a lot of ways you can carry this, right? There's a lot of ways you can turn this. Like, what's Damian going to do with Money in the Bank? What are we going to do with McDonough? And so this is going to be very interesting on how this gets played out on Monday on Raw. And going forward, what's the story going to be? And so I'm very interested in the story arc at the moment. The only thing that I wish WWE would do here is merge the two belts, right? We have the red and the blue. You now have them on Judgment Day. What's their color? Purple. Well, how do you make purple? Red and blue, right? So merge them together, make it one set of stripes. If they're going to be the undisputed belts, merge them together, introduce purple belts, and I think that'll work out well, at least for Judgment Day, and then when they lose, they'll maybe introduce like a black strap again. But we need to stop having them carry two sets of belts because they're one title, and it's just a weird look, right? Yeah, but that match. Now let me say this: the crowd was on fire through these first four matches. And the three of the four, the only one, Reagan and Theory, was kind of boring, but the other three were banger matches. LA Knight and Miz wasn't bad. It wasn't. I still don't think LA Knight's a superstar, right? But yeah, this street fight was fantastic, right? You had everything you wanted. And it delivered A+ without a doubt, right? A+ without a doubt. You then we move on to the Grayson Waller effect with Cody Rhodes, where Cody Rhodes comes out and announces Jey Uso is now on Raw. So first off, this was a surprise because I figured they would keep Jey off TV for a little bit longer. But now we have Jey Uso over on Raw. This is very interesting because this only screams to me that it's going to be Team Raw versus Team SmackDown at Survivor Series, and it's going to be Team Jey versus Team Jimmy. And I'm 100% down for that. This is main event, Jey Uso on Raw by himself. This is going to be very entertaining, and I think ultimately lead to a very entertaining match. I think we'll get at WrestleMania in Philadelphia between the two brothers. I think we'll get the final showdown between the two of them at WrestleMania, which changes my WrestleMania and Royal Rumble plans because I thought Jey Uso would return at the Rumble and win. Now I don't think he's going to win the Rumble. I don't have a person to put in that place yet. I'm thinking maybe Gunther, but I think Gunther is already main event caliber. I don't think they have to prove him to do anything. I don't really think he has to win. I'm hoping we get a little bit clearer, as we get closer to Royal Rumble, we find out what happens there. But yeah, this was a little fun little segment. We then move on to the Women's World Championship match, and this is where the event really sort of turned sour. I don't think it was a bad match. It was just a slow match, and there was so much potential in this match. There was so much, like we know Rhea Ripley can go in the match because she just had a banger with Charlotte this year. We know Raquel can go in the match. If you've seen her in NXT, if you've seen her in any of her NXT stuff, and I mean she's had some good matches on the main roster. We know Raquel can go in the ring, and this match was just very, very poorly booked. I don't think it's average, though. I think it's better than average. I'm going to give it a B. Just a straight up B. No, I'll give it a B minus. I'll give it a B minus. Now that I think about it, it's better than average, but it didn't. I think the problem with it wasn't bad. Like I don't want to sit here and say it was bad. It was just boring. It was slow. It wasn't energetic. It didn't feel like it was premier live event quality match. Again, Dominic came for the save. And Rhea retains, and Judgment Day again is reigning supreme. All of them have titles. And oh boy, I don't know where we're going with this. Raquel needs to be built and be built stronger, and Rhea just needs a legitimate opponent. I don't know what else you do for her at this point. Like the only other thing is Becky, but that is that going to be the Mania match? I don't know how I feel about that, to be quite honest with you. And then we get this main event. That I don't know if I want to say it was like the worst match ever, but I'm giving this a C. This was, quite honestly, one of the worst main events possibly of the year. And I know that's going to sort of confuse, because I'm already reading some of these like grades of the IWC, and they're giving it like a high B, low A. And I didn't feel it. I just didn't feel it because this is why they're doing that. This is why they're doing it. I know what this match was. This was a sort of call out this was the Japanese style of wrestling. This is Wrestle Kingdom type matches, right? This is how they tell stories in Japan, right? In Japan, the story isn't told, as like a soap opera. The story is told in the ring. And so the story being told here was Seth Rollins has an injured body part, and the entire story is in this match. Shinsuke Nakamura is going to attack the back of Seth Rollins, right? And so that's the entire story. It's very shallow. There's not much to it. And to me, when you run a story like that, I mean this with any offense that you take. This is why the Japanese style does not get over. This is what I would expect from AEW Forbidden Door style matches. This is why I can't watch Wrestle Kingdom. I've tried to watch Wrestle Kingdom twice in my life, and they're hard watches. They're 5 hours long. Now they're 2 nights, and it's just that match times 5 hours for the most part of just it. And it works if you're into that style of storytelling, but for most casual fans, for people like me, that's not going to cut it, right? And then you build Shinsuke up, and I thought they were doing a very good job of building Shinsuke, and in the perfect opportunity to have him win the title, he loses, and in a perfect opportunity to have Damian Priest cash in, you don't pull the trigger on that either, right? This would have been a perfect time. Shinsuke's frustrated, he lost, he gets back in the ring, he attacks Seth Rollins from behind, weakens the back. Damian comes out, cashes in, wins the title, and now Judgment Day literally rules the entire brand of Raw. They have everything on Raw. I think that also makes it easy to slide in McDonough, because Priest could be like, hey, thank you, as your reward, you're the new tag champion, you're going to partner with Finn. I think you can make that work. But this main event should not have been the main event. So what I want to do real quick before we end this is look at, first off, what are we going to overall grade this show? And so we're going to do math here. So in a standard grading scale, an A is a 90 to a 100. A B is an 80 to an really it's a 80 to an 89. A C is 70 to 79. D, right? We don't have any D, so right. So we gave Becky and Trish an A, so we'll give that a 90. We gave LA Knight and Miz a B minus. So we'll give that. Well, actually, 90 would be an A minus. 95 would be an A. Let's just run it that way. And then A plus would be a 100, right? So 95 for Becky and Trish. Miz and LA Knight, we gave a B minus, which would be an 80. Ray in Theory, we gave a C plus. We'll give as a 79. Street Fight got an A plus. We'll give that as a 100. Rhea and Raquel B minus. We'll give that as an 80. And then Shinsuke and Seth we gave as a C, which we would put as a 75. That's a total of 509 out of, what would it be, 600? Yeah. So that averages out to about an 85 out of 100, which is a B show, which I think I can agree with. I'd give the show as a whole, I'd give it a B, a safe B. There were very, very good moments. We had 2 potential match of the year candidates, very solid matches with Miz and LA Knight. And I mean, Ray in Theory wasn't god awful. It just wasn't anything spectacular either. Now, let me grade. So the match is still a C, but let me rearrange how the card was set up, and the card feels completely different. Let me explain. So you start with Becky and Trish. You give this banger of a match to start the night. I would even say continue with Miz and LA Knight and with Ray in Theory. That's perfectly fine. The first 3 matches are in very good order. I would then put Rhea and Raquel on 4th. And then, actually, you can't do 3 slow matches. So it would be Becky and Trish, right? And then I probably would have done Rhea and Raquel next to get that, I don't want to say out of the way, but put that early on, the slower style match. You then move into Miz versus LA Knight, because you end Rhea and Raquel, which was a very slow, boring match, with Cena coming out next. Then you move to Miz and LA Knight. You can get the crowd a little bit back into it, right? And then you do Ray in Theory. 4th, you do Cody Rhodes and Grayson Waller effect. That's fine. Then you put Seth and Shinsuke on 5th. This could be that slow-paced match that sort of carries, right? It's not how you end the night, but it's, right, especially if you're not going to have a cash-in happen. You could put this on 5th, and then you end the night with the street fight where Judgment Day wins. And the reason I end with this match is you end the show with an anchor for you to watch on Monday. What do you do with this match? When you end with the street fight, what does that do? First off, everyone goes home. We just saw a banger of a match, A+ match. Everyone's happy leaving the arena. But from a storyline perspective, now there's an anchor. Judgment Day is in control of Raw. What's going to happen on Monday? And it gets you to tune in. Right now, I mean, I still want to tune in. That anchor's still there, but it's in the middle of the card, and people may forget about the anchor because of how the card ended with 2 very slow, boring matches. The card was great. The show for the first, 2.5 hours, very good. Rhea and Raquel was a very, I don't want to say great, but it was a good match. I could see where they were going with it. I could see where they were going with Seth and Shinsuke. But from a casual fan perspective, and even as just someone who just doesn't really necessarily care for the Japanese style of storytelling, that main event just didn't do it for me. So what do y'all think? What do y'all think of it? Let me know in the comments of the YouTube video or in the Discord if you're there. Yeah, that's about it. I think we got a pretty good show for what this. When I came into this expecting, like, at best a C+ show. Like, my expectation was D-, and I figured maybe maybe we'll get one very good match that I wasn't expecting. But we got a very good card. It's just the order of the show doesn't, like honestly, I'm not a fan of Shinsuke's and Seth's match, but if you put that 5th or you put that 4th on the card, then I don't necessarily think we're talking about the ending of the show being pretty bad. Because if you put that middle of the card and then you leave the fans talking about something positive, the ending of the show feels better. If you ended it with that street fight, I think the ratings would be a little bit different for how I would rate it, right? And as an overall show. This is my problem with Triple H's booking. I think he cooks individually, he cooks very good ideas, but it's making a complete product that's palatable. That is his problem. So individually, Rhea and Raquel was a decent match, and Shinsuke and Seth told a Japanese style story that for the fans of that style of wrestling, they'd enjoy, and it cooked pretty well. But when you mix that together with the rest of the card, which was, pretty good, right? I mean, if you take away Rhea and Raquel and Seth and Shinsuke, right? If you take that away, you get a you go from it being 85 out of 100 B- show to it being a B+, almost an A- show. But right, and so it's not that the matches themselves were bad, it's the position on the card and the expectations going into that match. The two matches I think everyone had the highest of expectations for, they put at the end of the card, and they just sort of became a snooze fest to end the card, right? Not necessarily bad matches, just the placement and then the speed of the match just felt very off. But I do want to state something. Outside of Jey Uso showing up, but he's not even Bloodline no more, right? But outside of Jey Uso showing up, we didn't have any Bloodline on this show. No Roman, no Solo, no Jimmy, no Paul. This was the first pay-per-view in a while. Name the last Premier Live event we haven't had the Bloodline story on. And I think they did very well without it. And I think this was a testing ground to see, okay, I think we're going to end this at Mania. Can we still cook up story, right? And I think that's why they're pushing the Judgment Day. I think Triple H understood he was ending the Bloodline. We needed something to take its place. And now you have the Judgment Day that is doing very well and doing just that. So that's my review of the card. Let me know what you think. Join the discourse on the Discord. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the WetooDeep channel, like the video, comment on it. Let me know what you guys think. And then if you're listening on podcast networks, please leave us a review. I prefer 5-star. If you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star. If you don't, if you absolutely despise everything that I say, I'm fine with the 1-star review. What I'm not fine with is the 3-star that says, you know what, it's okay, right? Exaggerate a little bit. If you like it, exaggerate. Don't give me a 4, give me a 5, right? And if you don't like it, don't give me a 2. Just go ahead and give me the 1, because the 2, 3, and 4s, those are like, I hate it, but I'm not willing to commit to hating it all the way, or I like it, but I'm not willing to like it all the way, right? So I'm not telling you not to give me a 4 or a 3. I'm just saying I prefer 5s and 1s. You either like it or you don't. I don't really necessarily think being lukewarm is, very, very beneficial. But leave a review nonetheless. Follow the show. That way, in your podcast app, as soon as the episodes drop, you get the notifications, and they automatically download in your feed when you open the podcast app. Thanks again for listening. Again, let me know how you feel. And while I have everyone here, we do have the official 2K tournament bracket. This is the only other thing. This is how I'll end it. We did our draft during the pre-show for Payback, and we are I have the bracket. I've already posted it in the Discord, but I'll show it for everyone else and put it on podcast here. We do have the official Queen of the Ring Casual Wrestling Community Queen of the Ring tournament bracket, and it will be shown right here. As you can see, this is going to be a very interesting tournament. If you see it on the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it on the screen. If you're listening to it on Podcast Network, if you're in the Discord, the bracket's in the Discord already. But we have the play. So what I did was I double-sided the bracket, and I took the round 1 results and put it on one side, and the round 2 results and put them on the other side. That way we don't have like what we had in the men's tournament, where the same person had 2 superstars who faced off against each other. Now you may have that in the finals, but anyway, so we see Asuka will face the winner of the play-in of here, which is Beth Phoenix and Trish Stratus. Asuka will face the winner of that play-in match. And then the other matchups on this one side of the bracket are Raquel Rodriguez versus Ronda Rousey, Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley. I think that side of the bracket is going to be fantastic matchups for that first round. You see on the other side, Nikki Bella is going to play the winner of the play-in between JC Jane and Cora Jade. You got Chyna versus Nikita Lyons, which is going to be interesting. Doudrop versus Liv Morgan. Bailey versus Alexa Bliss. This is going to be a fantastic tournament. It's going to be fantastic. All right. So tune in. That'll be on this channel. Play-in matches will be posted on Monday, and then the official tournament will start, and matches will be posted every Thursday on the WetooDeep YouTube channel that the podcast is on. And again, if you're in the Discord, I'll post the episodes. And then I'll update the bracket each week. We'll go from there. But again, thank you for watching and listening, and I will see you on Wednesday where we get back into talking about wrestling news. With that, I'm WetooDeep413. You can find me on TikTok and Twitter X at WetooDeep413. And until then, I will see you on the next episode. You have a great rest of your Labor Day weekend if you're in America. If you work on Monday, like I do, well, enjoy Sunday. And if you're off and get the extended weekend, enjoy your weekend. And I'll see you on Wednesday.
Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If I like, get some moment.